Hey everybody. So I was thinking about, wow, it's a little overwhelming the amount of information I need to write about biochemical signaling and ionic channel blockers and agonists and antagonists and the grid and how sodium chloride and potassium also has to do with the brain signaling and all of that. And then I'm like looking at the whole thing with cannabis and, of course, the endocrine system, the cannabinoid receptors. And it finally, I'm able to explain why it is that cannabis is so detrimental to the body because it is an agonist which brings to surface, it signals those hormones to be produced and then influence then your appetite. It also could have, adverse effects to your memory, um, your pituitary gland, your growth and development. And so this is why drugs are another type of either an ion like a sodium calcium ionic channel blocker, or drugs can influence hormones to come to surface and then cause hormonal imbalances, of which then, yes, you'll get developmental imbalances. And so, what cannabinoids do, or what cannabinoid receptors do, is yes, you have them and they do regulate your specific systems. Okay, cortisol, pituitary gland, adreno something. But when you're smoking pot every single day, what do you think it does to your hormones when you keep smoking it? It causes more hormonal imbalances. Yeah, you might get your appetite, but what's good is get an appetite when you can't even utilize the nutrients correctly, effectively. And so, yeah, I knew there was a reason why they allowed cannabis to be legalized because, yeah, it's part of like, hey, if you choose to destroy your body, cause more hormonal imbalances, and yes, cause you then to have such an event at some point down the road that you do eventually go utilize the system. Okay? People who are drug addicts, who are pot smokers on a daily basis, they also utilize the system. It's not like you're just a drug addict and a pot smoker and that's it. No, the allopathic and holistic world go work in tandem. Okay, just like taking vitamin D supplements cause then hypocalcemia, where you have an overproduction of calcium. And then eventually you're going to have to get a calcium blocker because now you have high blood pressure, heart issues, arrhythmia, and everything else. And so now you have to then slow down that mineral agonist. Okay, so everything is like it's like the binary code, zero for off, one for on. Just like the electrical switches on your switchboard when you have to go and reset your switchboard because there was a short somewhere in your house, and you have to go and go do those little switches. That's exactly what goes on in your electrical grid as far as your hormones. And so what drugs do is they turn hormones on, turn hormones off, and that's why you see disproportionate people manifesting hormones that have been completely cattywampus. And then you have to go have biotech go in and manually turn hormone switches on and off. Whether it's manually doing it, like literally manually doing it, or you're taking a drug, like, stuff for like metformin, like diabetes, or like, heart medication. When you're smoking your pot, or you're taking other like antibiotics to stop the life in your body, because your microbiome is made up of viruses, parasites, protozoa, proteins, fungus, and bacteria. And so, like, I knew something, and I had to find a way to scientifically explain why we have the issues in our community, is because we have people who are completely like don't know how to intelligently control their own hormones, and so they pay somebody else to go and switch hormones on and switch hormones off. It's like paying an electrician to come in and reset your electrical grid, but not reset, just go in and manually go, okay, we're going to turn this switch on and allow electricity to flow through this part of the house. Like, I didn't know how to reset my electrical grid when there was a short because I used a hair dryer that had too much energy, and so it shorted out one side of the house. So I went downstairs and looked at the thing. I'm like, okay, I don't know how to read this. And my husband goes, well, just look, find the one that is kind of out of place and then turn it to the right. Because when you have a short, one of those switches will then go to the left. And so now you have to go put it to the right. And so I went downstairs and I actually did that. I just put it all the way to the right. And then we had electricity. There was life in that part of the house that I shorted because of a dryer, like a hair dryer and a heater at the same time. There was too much voltage, too much power, so it shorted that part of the house out. That's what's going on in people's bodies. And so what do? So instead of you really manually, not even manually, like letting your body intelligently do it with sodium and nutrients, not just sodium, but it's nutrients, to then reset the hormonal fluctuations to where it's finally able to regulate on its own. When you're paying someone to do that, guess what? There's a domino effect. When you're taking a drug, there's a domino effect. There's a domino effect when you pay somebody else to come in. It's like you paying someone to come in and do that, and then they mess with it, they steal something. You know, you pay someone to come in all the time to turn on your light, and you get someone who has, who wants to make more money off of you, and so then they go and mess with your electrical grid on your house, and then you keep bringing them in the house because you keep getting electrical shorts. That's no different than paying someone out there to go and manually reset or manually turn on a hormone or turn off a hormone. So now I have to write about, okay, now I need to write from the standpoint, from the micro to the macro, even in this. And it's a lot, yeah, because there's a lot of things I have to cover so that way you get it with the analogies. So it's a lot, but it's not impossible. But at least now I have the words. And channel blocking, that is a huge term that I was not aware of. But I had to look up what ionic channels are. The sodium blockers, sodium potassium blockers, lidocaine, different prescription drugs are actual sodium blockers. You know why? Because sodium and potassium bring life, bring communication to that part of the body. And so when you have a channel blocker that blocks that sodium and potassium channel, there's no life to that part of the body. So like I said, dead zones get created. And those little dead zones that you have become big dead zones. And then they eventually affect your vital organs. It's crazy. And then yes, all the different channel blockers that you have in your body that are part of your DNA that can be reversed. Then when you trigger meiosis, which is basically fertility, you're passing on those issues to your next generation. And I was watching the Netflix movie about CRISPR gene editing and the long-term future ramifications when you're actually doing gene editing, trying to get a designer baby. There's adverse reactions because there's no way that other DNA strands, DNA, combinations aren't going to get affected by that little tweaking that someone did because they wanted to now not feel pain or not feel this or not feel that or have this or have that or reverse or cure their Alzheimer's simply by a little DNA tweak. I'm telling you, it's wow. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up about the whole thing with cannabis. Cannabis is not your friend, but I'm telling you, it's so rampant out there. And that's what causes more hormonal imbalances. And then, you're going to get a lack of brain activity, brain dead, lack of memory, body totally depleted, because, you're hungry, you're getting the munchies. Maybe you're more sexual. And then, you have memory issues. Yes, you have, if it's in a younger person, they're going to have developmental issues. There is some major, major issues with cannabis. But you can't tell a world that's dying to get off their drugs, but at least I'll be able to explain that it's an agonist receptor. It's a cannabinoid receptor. It promotes more of the hormone to come to surface. So just because you have these hormones in your body doesn't mean that you should be blocking it or inducing it on such a level the way that people are. And that's what people are doing. They're causing more hormonal imbalances because of the drugs they're taking. Drugs influence and suppress. They cause too much hormones to come surface, and then they block hormones. And then you have a person who's a fucking mess. And they wonder why. Well, you're allowing some stranger who has a control over your body biochemically to go and tweak you for money. It's all freaking money. You realize that your body's been commodified by biotech? It's all money. Every single system in your body is worth millions and millions and millions of dollars, because how long are you usually living on Earth? Between 50 and maybe 100 years? You know how many times you have your body gets tweaked by someone or something? You say, hey, give me, $100, give me $1,000. Here, pay your health insurance. Health insurance companies make a shit ton of money off of you. Your local drug dealer, when you're taking your illicit drugs, make a shit ton of money off you, because you fail to understand how your biochemistry works. And then, yeah, you're going to have cancer, disease, chronic illness, autoimmunity, chronic pain. It's inevitable. All right, bye.